And welcome to the This Week in Worcester podcast. My name is Tom Marino. I am the editor of This Week in Worcester. I am here with Mr. John Edward Keogh. He is the executive producer of Manager Media and the president of Hollywood Film Group.
That's correct. Wow, you nailed it, man. What's going on?
It only took me like 3 weeks to get it all right. Never mind what's going on with me. What's going on with you after hosting a successful event that I very much enjoyed on Friday? The opening of the Dirty Gerund. Say it for me.
Dirty Gerund Poetry Show documentary.
Yes. Well done by you and the folks at Manager Media.
Yeah, it was great. We worked really hard. So last year, over 2 days, 2 weeks basically, we filmed the open mic poetry show that happens at Ralph's Rock Diner every Monday night, the Dirty Gerund Poetry Show, and then we've been working on it, editing it for a year. And to be honest with you, the person who's done the most work on that by far is Leanne. And then while we were doing that, I was doing all the promotional stuff to try to build up towards having a couple of events. So we did a free screening a couple of weeks ago, so all the poets could get a chance to see it at Ralph's. So we did it at Ralph's outside with the big wall, and then. But we wanted to give people the chance to have that kind of like star treatment, have the red carpet and have popcorn and, just do that. And also to get some people who might not really know about the Dirty Gerund a chance to see the essence of it with our film. And I feel like it was great. It was a packed house. We had popcorn. We had some local Worcester glitterati show up. And I thought it was a nice room and was a good mix of people. There was a few some local film folk from around, some people from Studio Theater Worcester, who's a local a theater collaborative here in the city that supports a lot of arts and stuff. And so it was just a good night. It was fun. We kept it cheap. Tickets were only $12, and candy was a couple dollars. We kept everything real inexpensive. And we're super happy. A lot of good feedback. Everybody feels good about it, and so I cannot complain at all.
Yeah, it was a good event, and if for those that are unaware, why am I so afraid of saying this word? The Dirty Gerund.
Gerund.
Why can't I do words? The Dirty Gerund Poetry Show is a weekly open mic at Ralph's that's been going since I learned during the documentary, 2008.
And you should go out and check it out.
If that is your thing, go. So yeah, I thought you guys did well with the film, well with the event. Congratulations.
Thanks, buddy.
On to the next thing.
Yeah, on to the next thing. So the one thing I will say this for the people who watch, but this has been part of my ongoing project, Hollywood Film Group, is the goal is to create local film infrastructure, media stuff here in Worcester, and this is all part of that kind of project. So Manager Media does like community news and does a lot of event stuff and a lot of local politicians. Tom and I talk about local politics and policy and happenings, and then we're trying to develop stuff independently because we really feel like legacy media doesn't really serve the people of Worcester. And so that's all part of this thing together. And it shows that you can do it in a positive way and a happy way. You can have people come out together and have a good time. And it doesn't have to be that crazy. You can keep it cheap and you can also do good work. So it's real possible here in the city of Worcester.
Excellent. Well done, sir. Well done. I don't even know quite how
something really happy immediately transitioning into something horrible.
Just the one of the dumbest things on so many levels that I've ever seen. What we can go over the actual substance, but I'm sure we both have some thoughts on this being on the agenda at all.
It's crazy.
So a member of I just want to see. No, didn't sign. So naturally, it's filed by a citizen, but it's if you dig into what they actually submitted to the city to get this petition onto the city council agenda, a citizen petition. It's really, they have the Worcester Republican City Committee all over it. And this individual, and I'm just going to read the thing so we can all get a grip on how idiotic this is. Request City Council beg the city manager to request the solicitor. That's just council language. Draft documentation required to amend the city charter to require candidates beginning with the municipal election in 2025 to be a citizen of the United States of America to be eligible to hold elected office in the city. Further, request said amendment include language requiring any candidate not born in or within the jurisdiction of the United States, but has become a naturalized citizen by the time signature papers are due for that year's election, to submit naturalization papers or other legal documents as proof of citizenship to the city clerk's office and any other necessary office or department. Failure to submit such authenticated documents shall make candidate ineligible for local office in the city. So, first, the obvious stuff. Putting a requirement only on naturalized citizens and not having the same requirement for natural born citizens is a plain violation of the 14th Amendment, which clearly
on its face
clearly establishes two classes of citizens. And the 14th Amendment very clearly states that that's not a thing we do. That there are not different classes of citizens. Citizens are citizens. And the requirement to be a citizen is already a thing because you have to be a registered voter in the city. And to register to vote, you must be a citizen of the United States. So once, that being a fact, I think is probably very likely that this also violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1963, because based on discrimination against people for national origin, place of origin. Again, you're creating a standard for citizens not born here that is not a standard that they wish to apply to citizens that were born here. So, on its face, dumb. Now, the process that goes on here is that the city clerk, who is an employee of the city council, when he has questions about things going on in the charter, on the agenda, he confers with the city solicitor, who is an administration official. He serves the city solicitor, whomever may sit in that office at any time, serves at the pleasure of the city manager, can be fired without cause for any reason at any time. And John, you and another individual filed a petition a few months ago. You were then a member of the Cable Television Advisory Committee, and you worked for a very long time to file a report from that committee that suggested that advised the city manager not to not renew but deny renewal to Charter Spectrum. That doesn't mean that we would throw them out of the city. It's a procedural thing that we've talked about before. We're not going to do it now. And that petition was not allowed on the agenda. And can you explain us the reasoning? You got one reasoning when you were rejected, of course, and then by the time it got to council the following Tuesday, there was a whole different reasoning. It was wholly reworked reasoning. But can you tell us what was the reasoning for you not getting on the agenda?
So the original reasoning that we got was that we were not allowed to ask the city council to override a decision by the city manager. That was the original. Which your resolution did not do. No, it did not. It was not a request. It specifically, it was worded, we were asking the city council to recommend the city manager not sign the charter contract deal. It wasn't, he hadn't made a decision yet, or at least publicly he hadn't said he did make a final decision, because he can't legally until this month, but he could at some point this month. And then when we got to the Tuesday, the city solicitor created a new reason, and because we ended up addressing the city council, but we addressed it for a different way. We were not allowed to petition, but we went in on an item that was a cable related item and then spoke. And the mayor graciously allowed me to speak, probably much longer than I should have. And then the city solicitor got up and responded to me and said that I was a city employee and could not petition my elected representatives to challenge anything that the city manager said. And then he made this statement: in all my 40 years as a city solicitor, I've never heard of anything like this by a commission, a voluntary commissioned board member of any kind.
And if I remember correctly, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Well, first they said that you were employees, and then by the time we got the city council, he had a case law that he cited, right? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, a specific Supreme Court case. Yeah.
It was a Mass Supreme Court case, right?
Mass Supreme Court. That's right.
Okay, so this case was and you stop me if I'm wrong. This case was a wrongful termination case, is what it was.
That's right. That's right.
So a government employee made statements in public about the area in which they worked, like the policy area in which they worked, and those statements contradicted the position of the administration for which they worked at the time. I think this happened at the state level, but that's not really relevant. And what the court found was, so that person was fired and then sued for wrongful termination, and the court decided that that was not a wrongful termination, that because they were commenting in the area in which they worked and they were contradicting the position of the administration they served, that the administration was rightful in terminating them.
Right.
And so that had no relevance to your situation.
Right, because I wasn't an employee of the city. I was a volunteer.
Well, let's just say let's give them for a second, although it was really stretching the definition of an employee. Let's concede that for a second.
Sure.
This decision meant that you could be fired for speech in these narrow parameters.
That's right. My speech could be restricted under those very, very narrow things. Yeah.
No. That's not what it said. What it said is, if you communicated speech like this, you could then be terminated from your job. So they then flipped that into being able to preempt that speech from ever happening.
Yes, they would. They didn't want me to speak at all.
So, what in any realistic way that's competent, what they should have let you do is say the things, bring this petition, and then the city manager could remove you from.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I could say there was a conflict of interest,
and that would have been wholly compliant with this court case that the administration cited. And instead, they used a wrongful termination case, and they flipped that all the way to be able to preempt that speech from happening. It was wild.
It was wild. It's still wild to this day. Although he did write a group email to myself and the other members who resigned in protest over his decision, he still has never directly addressed it with me. Not that he has to. I'm nobody. I'm not important or anything. But I do see him from time to time, and he just decided not to ever speak about it. So I don't, in that case, don't really know what to do other than to continue to advocate, which I have, for people to cut the cord and get off of both Spectrum, internet, and cable. And I'm going to wage that campaign, until the end of time. My goal is to get as many people off of the giant company as I can, and help create momentum towards whether it's a municipal option run by the city or an independent option run by somebody else, but something different than what is in place now, because I don't believe that that company has our best interest or the people of Worcester's best interest. And so I can't affect every single thing in the city. I wish I could. But at least this one could be one thing that I can advocate for and feel really good about pushing for something better for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And so there are, I think, 2 pending orders from councilors asking for an update on those negotiations, which have not been returned. The deadline for something to happen, they could extend that deadline if they so choose, but they have to make a decision by the end of the month here. And that also requires a public hearing that has yet to be announced. So,
and it would be really hard. Well, it would be very difficult legally for them to extend it without having a full board, which they still do not have a full board. They have 2 members. They have never met because there's no quorum, and they would need to get at least 2 more members to be able to meet in quorum to then recommend to the city manager that the thing be extended. That's the process, because this particular thing has a federal law attached to it. The city manager can't unilaterally do that in this case, but it's very possible that maybe they would try to come up with a convoluted reason why. I don't know. But so I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen in the next 18 days. Maybe there'll be an announcement. I don't know. We'll see. There's nothing on the agenda this week in relation to this.
Nope, all quiet. If I had to take a stab in the dark here, what's going to happen? I don't know that this is true, but I'm just taking a stab here. It's going to be very late in the month. They're going to jam that. They're going to jam that public hearing in on almost no notice, and then they will sign a renewal and probably concede everything.
Well, I just hope the city councilors that are paying attention to this and have made public statements, including multiple 11-0 votes in the opposite direction. I hope that they maintain the little power that they do have, which is to make recommendations with their public platforms, that they would continue to make those public statements clear. So we'll see that. We'll see what happens. I hope they do. I think some will, but I hope all of them will.
So in one case, when it's in the interest of the administration, and this is my point here, when it's in the interest of the administration, because the city solicitor is involved, as I mentioned, he serves at the pleasure of the city manager. He is not part of city council, nor is the city manager. They did what was in the interest of the administration. Now, I don't for a second think that anybody in the administration actually supports this resolution. I wouldn't speculate that at all. I would speculate the obvious. I don't think they would support this at all. But it's on the agenda for a reason, and I have no idea what that reason is.
So that's the thing that doesn't make any sense yet. So this, even if, so let's since we're giving things to people and we're like allowing arguments to be made, right? Let's say there was a reasonable position to be made that you need to have some kind of requirement to be a public official, right? Let's just say that was necessary. This particular thing has a legal issue with it immediately. As we said, it clearly violates the 14th Amendment. By the way, the current Supreme Court, in their recent, the thing that they allowed in Arizona to move forward, which was, wildly publicized as they were allowing identification in voters, which it wasn't. It's very similar to what we have in Massachusetts, which as an election official in Massachusetts, I'm actually an inspector. Please go vote at the library when you get a chance. But in Massachusetts, the procedure is very simple. If you have not voted in the last 2 elections that you are eligible for, there'll be a little indication next to your name that says check ID. And then and then you take that person and you send them to the clerk. The clerk then checks the ID, puts it into the computer, sends them back to the inspector. You give them a ballot, and they vote. That's the process in Massachusetts. Arizona wanted to take it one step further, which is they wanted to check your ID in every case, basically. And the Supreme Court, the current Supreme Court, didn't allow that, but they did allow the provision that's similar to what happens here in Massachusetts, which is if you haven't voted in X amount of time, that there could be a review. Now, our state has a great process that it's called, they review the voter rolls in between every election. Every single election, right? And it's very simple. What you do is you check all the IDs of the people in the city of Worcester, people that live here, and then you check addresses and see if people have moved or not. And if they've moved, you double check. It's really a simple process, and it's really done at the registry and in the election office by the city clerk. It is not that complicated, and it doesn't need to be done. So that's step one. Step two, the current city councilors that this provision would be applied to have already provided the documents that are asked for in the stupid order. They've already done it.
Because they registered the vote.
This is the thing that is so ridiculous. To get on the ballot, to be elected in the city of Worcester, you have to go to City Hall and present an ID and a list of names to get on the ballot. Both one of the particular, and I don't want to say the councilors' names because I don't want to say for sure that they're being targeted, but there are two naturalized citizens that happen to sit on our city council, and it looks like this order is directed directly at them. And it's so asinine. It's such a waste of our time as people of of Worcester. And I'm generally a conservative guy. This is wasting city resources. It boggles my mind that this made it onto the agenda. They've already provided the documentation. So you're asking for a new rule to be established that already exists in part before someone is elected. They had to establish themselves as a resident in the city of Worcester. They've already done this. So the only thing this can possibly be, in my opinion, I don't know everybody involved that in this stupid petition, is political theater. It's just political theater. It's just to be able to either A, come down against it. So maybe on Tuesday, the city manager will come out and he'll be like, this is not how we do it. And he's going to be really like a hero. Or they're going to say, hey, we really do need to check these kind of things. And, we got to make sure. But the rule already exists in part, because to get on the actual ballot, you have to give an ID at the city clerk's desk when you turn in your signatures for your nomination papers. So they've already done it. Not only that, they did it twice, because to get the papers, to pull the papers, you have to give an ID at the desk. And when you turn them in, you give an ID again, and then the city clerk checks your signatures, verifies whether they're real or not. And then so in the case of a at-large counselor, they had to get 300 signatures from citizens of the city of Worcester that say that, hey, we support this person being on the ballot. And in the case of a district counselor, it's 100. So in minimum, you're looking at the counselor has provided 100 signatures from citizens of Worcester who have addresses in the city, who verify that this person also lives in the city and should be able to run for election. How much more do you want them to go through? Because you just want to have this foolishness, this just asinine, just waste of time. But that's not even what I'm mad about, Tom. What really bothers me is that the city solicitor, his job is to understand constitutional law. And this creates that dual system of citizenship, and it creates a section of people that are now going to be held to a higher standard because they're naturalized citizens. To become a naturalized citizen, by the way, is one of the most difficult processes to ever go through in life. Do you have any idea what you have to go through to be naturalized in the United States of America? First off, you have to live here for X amount of years. And you have to be able to verify that for X amount of years. You have to take a test. And I would really like the person who submitted this order to take the citizenship test for the United States of America and see if they could pass it. Because I don't think they could. That these folks already had to go through to get to this point. And you know what? They want to be here. They want to be here. They not only want to be here so much that they went through the naturalization process and passed the citizenship exam and went and held their hand up and pledged allegiance to our flag. They ran for public office in the city of Worcester, which gives absolutely no help at all to people who want to serve. As I know, trying to serve as a volunteer and getting run over by the city manager and the city solicitor and the city clerk earlier this year. These folks have gone through way worse than what I have gone through, being attacked on Twitter, having people come at their houses, having people threaten them and go near their families. You want them to go through more than that. You are every person behind this. You're a ridiculous human, and you do not hold conservative values because you just wasted all of our time and our limited government power that we do have in this city. You wasted it with this stupid order that has to now go through Tuesday's hearing, and now we have to listen to it actually being read. This vile, unnecessary, evil attack on humans who at least they want to try to serve other people. Okay, I'm done.
The paperwork submitted to City Council, which is you can click through on the item on the agenda to see what they actually solicited, what they actually sent. They write a thing, and then there's a second page, and it's almost like this wasn't meant to be sent along with it. It's almost like an internal note of some sort. And it provides reasoning for why they submitted this, and it's all stupid. It's just, citizens of other countries shouldn't be setting policy. But the last line of this, it's only 4 lines, but the last line of it is, this is a good and free way to get the committee's name better known. The Worcester Republican City Committee.
So this
literally
is what they
says
want
that.
to be known for? That's what you want to be known for?
Yeah, I mean, welcome to the age of Trump. But,
I'm not even talking about the national thing. Generally speaking, what were Republicans known for? Just like, I don't know, a couple of years ago, which was this idea of a small government, right? We were supposed to reduce government waste.
That's what they said.
Right? At least that's what people said, right? So, I guess for the interest of full disclosure, I am a registered unenrolled person. I do not support either political party. I think they're both ridiculous. And if you want proof of that, you can go back in time and listen to Tom and I rant and rave about both national parties being ridiculous. Anyways, so but me in particular, I've gone in hard on both. But I want to say this: they used to be known for small government. This idea that there would be less government intrusion. In this case, right off the bat, the first thing that you want to be known for in the city of Worcester is more government intervention into people's lives. And an accusation.
No, they want to be known as bigots because they want to attract other bigots.
Well, it's ridiculous. So I want to say this, Tom, I am of Irish descent. And there is this great and wonderful program that the nation of Ireland has run for about 30 years now, but they've codified it more certainly over the past 10 years, which is called the right to return, right? Which means that basically if you're a grandchild or closer of someone who came from Ireland to the United States, and in some cases a great-grandchild, you can apply for and receive your citizen. Oh, I lost Tom. I'm talking to.
No, I'm here. Go ahead.
Oh no, he's here. So you can actually become a citizen of Ireland and get a passport of Ireland and be able to travel easier between the United States and Ireland. When you receive that passport, which the last time I knew this is from last year's St. Patrick's Parade. This was a number that they found out. I think there's just a little bit over 8,000 people in the city of Worcester who currently hold dual citizenship as American-born folks who also hold a passport to Ireland. Technically, they are citizens of Ireland. So should we now force all of those folks to go through this same thing, right? Let's see where it is. I mean, the reason I'm saying it, I'm Irish. That happens to be a white, counted person, which drives me crazy because I don't want to be associated with anybody who calls themselves white anymore. But that is I don't. It makes no sense to me. I'd rather be called
I'm
green.
with it.
It's nonsense because white doesn't mean anything. It's just this thing here. It has nothing to do with the culture that I grew up in, which is much more interesting and cool to talk about, than this nonsense. So do all those people have to go through it? Because they would be technically vote. They're allowed to vote. They pay taxes in Ireland. They do all kinds of things. Should they not be allowed to influence the vote here in Worcester because they're also interested in the vote in Ireland? Is that something that you want to affect? Because if you did, by the way, it would really affect some of the people who run for office and win on a regular basis here in the city, who have a large Irish voting bloc on a regular basis. So it just the whole thing is ridiculous. It just makes no sense. And
It's not a serious thing. And you know what? I almost don't want to give its actual text that much time because they're not deserving of time. But I think there's another point that, like, and I mentioned it. I started to mention it. Is we saw with your resolution, it wasn't in the interest of the administration, so naturally the administration official, the solicitor, denied it on, I think, openly spurious grounds. And yet this is openly unconstitutional. And again, I mean, if you did this, the city councils are employees, are part-time employees. They do get a real payroll check, and for the pittance that we pay them. And I would think, unless government, no, it wouldn't be, because this would. I think EEOC would look at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which will civilly enforce a lot of discrimination laws.
Right.
I think they would have a field day with this.
Hi, Leanne.
I think they would have a field day with this. So, protecting women, that's not worth incurring liability, but this garbage is.
So I like this line of thought that you're bringing up. How does this piece being on the agenda advance the city administration's position?
I don't know. And I want to say that I do not think that anybody in the administration supports it, but it's there for a reason. I don't know if it's to distract, to create what will be absolutely 2 hours of public comments tomorrow on Tuesday. I mean, it's crazy.
A line out the door.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but it's there for a reason, because to reject this would have been the easiest reject they've ever done of a petition. And who I in the end, who's really at fault here? And I do not mean the two counselors that have, pretty obviously being targeted here as individuals, but city council as a whole is really responsible for this nonsense. It steadfast, consistent refusal to stand up for its independence from the administration. It is, it just seems like as a body as a whole, it's very comfortable being the city manager's errand boy.
So there's no chance that this passes. Right?
None. No one will vote for this.
So then
I would be stunned if somebody voted for this. No, it's getting rejected 11-0.
And this is just me. I've heard from dozens and dozens of people, which generally means it's even bigger, that are going to this thing to repudiate that it's even on here. To me, yep. Before the agenda is published, does the city council get access to that? Was there any internal conversations about this thing being on there?
I don't know. Because they had to because of the holiday on Monday, they actually had to get this up early, the agenda up earlier than they usually do. So I'm not sure if anybody saw it first. I think that there is before it's published to the public, I think there is access for council members, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, my point here is, whatever the reasoning is, and again, I don't think anybody in the administration supports. I'm going to keep saying that too, because I'm not going to get it twisted into somebody twist this into me saying the opposite. I do not think anybody in the administration would be supportive of this. But I do, how did it get on the agenda when it's so patently illegal? And again, This is city council's fault.
Yeah.
It's that disgraceful vote it took last year when it decided it wasn't going to hire its own attorney, and to continue to allow an administration official to interfere in the independent business of city council. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again real quick. Towns in Massachusetts, by law, through state law, towns in Massachusetts are a single branch of government. When you have a select board, the town manager, or they call it some other things in some places, actually works for the board and the select board. The select board is the executive. In towns, we have two branches of government. We have an executive branch and a legislative branch, obviously the administration and city council. It says that also in the city charter. It's like city councilors think that they know more about civics than John Adams. It's apparently city councilors in this city think John Adams was an idiot. And while he was a deeply flawed man in a lot of ways, like all of our founders, what he was probably the world's foremost expert at the time on government civics, and was largely the author of the Massachusetts Constitution, which was provided great guidance and inspiration for the federal Constitution. And in that Constitution, Article 30 of the Massachusetts Constitution says the administrative department, what they called it at the time, the administration, shall not exercise the power of the legislature, the judiciary, or either. And it also repeats that statement 3 times for the legislature and the judiciary. And city council just thinks that he was a moron, apparently, and that it's perfectly fine to continue to allow the administration to dictate its agenda to it.
And the other thing is, so often when you see like the national news talking about things that are going to happen at a national level, if this person wins or that person wins, you'll see either side say this is going to be this thing that's going to happen for the democracy, or that thing happened for democracy, or whatever. Part of those accusations means that they expect public officials to go along with whatever the crazy plan is, right? That's what they expect. And so my argument often is, I would hope that there would be someone who would stand up against some of this stuff. But then you get actually on a local level, somebody wrote this down and submitted this, and there were multiple people who read that and thought, hey, this should go forward. Like this should be a conversation on the record. There were public officials involved with the printing up of the agenda and putting it in place. And they considered this and didn't think to themselves, hey, maybe this would have a bad reaction, or even should we review this at a legal level and figure out whether or not this should be on the agenda or not.
Yeah, right.
Like,
and I'm actually I'm for being very permissive about things getting on the agenda. Put them on and let them vote it down if it's ridiculous, But that's not what the precedent is. The precedent that you were involved in is that when it's in the interest of the administration, we will jump through hoops of fire and stretch definitions and wholly misinterpret, to be nice, Supreme Court decisions, and apply them in a way that was never intended. But when some idiot wants to promote their stupid city commission, that's perfectly fine to just traffic in illegal racist nonsense.
It doesn't make sense. It was shocking, so shocking when it made the agenda that it reverberated around all of Worcester political, every Facebook feed and Instagram and Twitter and Reddit forums, and if you go on Nextdoor, they're arguing about it on Nextdoor, and it's like everywhere that you would have these conversations in public. I spoke with several of the counselors. There are several. By the way, there are several counselors not happy that this made it to the agenda, and I'm not just talking about the 2 that are clearly targeted by it, but other folks that feel like, oh man, now I have to deal with this, and they don't want to deal with it. They don't even want to have to face it because what's it going to be in that room that night?
And this is entirely manufactured by the administration.
It's just crazy. And so, by the way, let me say this too. I'm not opposed. So, I'm not opposed to there being a more balanced city government. With having, we've talked about this before. It's good to have opposition, right? To have one group on one side and one group on the other side, and legitimate conversation between the two sides. That's good. I don't have a problem with that. I don't even have a problem with there being somebody who, for some reason, wants to identify themselves as a particular party or not, right? Which I don't understand. I don't understand covering yourself with either of the two parties. But if you choose to be a Republican or a Democrat, that's fine. And you want to, run for elected office, and you get voters to vote for you, that's fine too. I don't have a problem with that. But I do have a problem with this, like, weird attempt to get relevance when you could, by the way, reach out to all of us, come on the platforms, talk about your positions. But to do it through this way is part of the reason why we have such strife right now in our country, because you're just doing it to get clicks, likes, that's it. Well, then, how are we ever going to do anything? Do you really want a solution? Do you really want a solution? I don't think that you do. I think that the person is just trying to get attention. And how does that
Well,
help?
this is a shameless. I mean, it's look, they submitted a document that says that's exactly what they're doing. And I just want to put a caveat on my last statement. I do not mean that the administration created this petition.
No.
I just mean that from the time that that this is on the petition, it is now they've created what will be a disaster on Tuesday, and I'm going to be there to join in.
It's going to be nuts. It's going to be.
Yep.
It's going like. We already have these city council meetings on parking and on road design going to 1:00 in the morning. So, like,
they can't. They only go to midnight.
I mean, well, till the latest possible time that you can go, whenever the meeting ends, 5-hour, 6-hour marathons or whatever that happens. That's going to happen. Guaranteed, this is going to happen because this is such a volatile issue. There's no way the mayor is going to be able to cap public comment. Like, it's just not going to happen. People are going to
does that. People show up, they can talk.
He's very good at getting people the opportunity to talk, but the line is going to be so long. Like, I've already heard from the police. They've already decided to, have extra staff on hand on Tuesday. Like, that's where we're headed because of this thing. What were they thinking about? Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't know if are they making their case for their draconian security measures that they want to put in place at City Hall? Are they trying to avoid city councilors asking about their orders about charter spectrum, or about the process to create an ordinance, or about the now year-and-a-half or year-old petition from that was unanimously approved to ask the city manager to seek out a feasibility study for municipal internet, which he just ignored. Maybe he's just trying. I don't know. Maybe it's just a bait and switch on some stuff they don't want to talk about. I don't know.
By the way, I'm all for the city officials feeling safe if they need to feel safe. So whatever that takes, but this weird undercurrent that has existed for about a year of hearing these little pop-ups about having more security there, that is not based on any credible, real things that we've seen take place in City Hall. So now, if what they are saying is that there's people that come to City Hall that have conversations with them that they're uncomfortable with because they don't know how to handle someone who is in opposition to them, which I definitely have seen. That's something that needs to be directly addressed. If you run for office or you decide to go to become a public official, remember, you're taking on potential opposition, always. And you're making a decision. Now, it doesn't mean you should be under siege, as we seem to be going after two particular councilors with this stupid order. But it does mean that you're going to be criticized. People are going to say bad things about you on Facebook and blah, 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 blah. That's what's going to happen. By the way, that happens at any level of public, notoriety of any kind. As Manny and I have, done different things, we get criticized all the time. Even by people we know, and people will make stuff up. It just is going to happen at some point.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if that's what they're doing, that's nonsensical. But I actually believe, Tom, the people that are going to go, they are, they're gonna come with emotion for sure, because this is definitely based in bigotry and hatred, and they're gonna come with some pointed comments for sure. But you know what? They're allowed to. That's what we're supposed to be about. They're allowed to go to that microphone, and guess what? You know what's legal? They can call you names, city councilors. They can say all kinds of bad things. Thanks to the Supreme Court has already said that I can go up there and cuss you out, but I only have 2 minutes, right? And also, there's a limit to the cussing out, because if I'm creating an environment that leads to potential hurt and harm, then now we can intervene in speech, right? So freedom of speech exists, except when you're starting to create environments where people are getting riled up and it's screaming and yelling and it's a lot of argument and all that kind of stuff. So I think, though, the people that are intending to go down there and speak, they're going to be calm, they're going to be pointed, and they're going to deliver impassioned things. I almost don't want to talk, because I want to leave room for the people that probably feel more personally directly affected, because they've had to experience that throughout their life, right? And it's just totally unfair. Last point is this. This is connected to this greater argument about immigration and what's happened in our country at the southern border, or at least that's been highlighted by the television news services over the past few years about what's going on down there. And then this thing that gets connected to economics and housing and all these other things, right? We become afraid of this nameless other. There's these folks that are coming from South America, or they're coming from Africa, or they're coming from Asia, and they come up through the border, and we use this term to insult them, and we call them illegal, right? We say they're illegal immigrants. And this term is based, again, in nonsense. As a man who loves Jesus, there is no such thing as an illegal person. All people, in my opinion, are made in the image of God, and you cannot call them illegal or not. Each nation, because we exist in a world of nation states, right? By the way, that construct is relatively new, historically speaking, but we happen to have that current situation going on right now, has rules about how you can come into the country or not. And our rules have never been applied equally or fairly for many, many, many decades, and we have all kinds of rules. So I do think that there should be some standard for how you come here. But to create this fear that the other is somehow against you personally is literally delusional. All right? The folks that are coming from other places are not against you. Whoever, if you're out there watching and you just think about it for a second, somebody who has gone through trials and tribulations to get out of a place that they were afraid in, to come here because they think our country offers them some kind of hope. Generally speaking, that's why people are coming here. Not everybody is a bad person. Not everybody is one of the national politicians has been ranting and raving. People are not just let out of mental institutions to come to the United States. It's ridiculous. They're not after you. They're after hope. And then they come here and they go through a process to become citizens of this place that they believe is hopeful. And then you want to make them feel less welcome, and you say that you believe in Jesus, you're a liar, and you're not anything connected to what he was trying to do, which was to bring people together. And I'm not trying to preach at anybody. I'm just trying to say this, that if you really truly believed in a nation that is this shining city on a hill, you should be welcoming people at all costs and be known for that, versus being known for this nonsense.
Leanne asked what number, and I didn't see it till just now, and it was forever ago. But it's 10L on the city agenda for Tuesday.
A lot of conversation on one item.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. So let's get off of that because it's forever. We've been on that forever. But I mean, it's you know, I just don't understand the motivation. It was so easy. If you look at it, there was an order a few months ago where there was a history of the orders that have been rejected, or the resolutions, the petitions rather, that have been rejected, and there was nothing nearly as egregious as this.
No. Why did they let it through? Why did they let it through?
We have a couple other things, but I think they're going to be rather quick hitting. Ballotpedia. I did a piece on this weekendworcester.com homepage right now. Ballotpedia analyzes every state's legislative elections every 2 years, and for the sixth time in the last 8 years, or sixth time in the last 8 election cycles, excuse me, Massachusetts has the least competitive legislature election season in the country.
Yeah, and
I break down some of the stats in the piece if you want to see it. It's horrific.
And so, to local, Worcester voters, what you have here is in our city alone, there's a bunch of uncontested, races for state representative, and when the state legislature doesn't do anything for the next 2 years, here's why. When there's no participation and there's no alternatives, there is actually we've talked about this pretty openly. The Speaker of the House here in Massachusetts is just an openly corrupt dude. Doesn't care what any of us think about him, and literally doesn't care about advancing certain things. That's why you have so many of these ballot questions that have to be that's how our state works now. The only way to get any true change is through these ballot initiatives, and even then the legislator will fight back against the ones that the people vote for, right? And Tom and I will probably go in deep on the ballot questions over the next couple of weeks. There's some really important ones, and there's a lot of controversy around some of these ballot questions, but that's the only way that we get effective change, because our representatives have no incentive to do anything different than what they've done, other than run to get a job, get enough votes to stay on the ballot, and then once you're in, you kind of just are in forever. And that's really what happens. And so there's no challenge to them. There are some ancillary races around Worcester that are kind of contested, and I guess we can talk about those races, and hopefully we can talk with some of those people in the next few weeks, because we're getting closer and closer. But realistically, it's basically everybody who won last time gets a free ride in the next time. At least we are the least competitive of all the states, which is just pretty typical in Massachusetts. People don't want to participate.
So I mean, and the way they did their study was just for clarity. They looked at uncontested races, races with a either a Republican or a Democrat and an independent candidate, or both major party candidates. So the more races with 2 major party candidates in them, they looked at as more competitive than those that didn't. So we have a ton of uncontested, and there's a few that have a Democrat, Republican, and a third-party candidate, or more than one, I think, in at least one or 2 cases. But the vast majority of races are uncontested.
By the way, one of the cooler parties in Massachusetts is the Pizza Party. That's a real political party. Just in case anybody wants to, I'm down. We can become local Pizza Party affiliates, and we could run as Pizza Party people. I'm totally down. There's also a pirate party. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll do probably next week. We'll probably do, I don't know, soon, obviously before the end of the month.
I'm going to throw this out to you live on air. Manny and I were talking about doing an election eve special like we did a couple of years ago, and what would make a lot of sense was to have Tom Marino in studio and have all kinds of talking heads come through. Just saying.
You people that want me to leave the house, fine. I'll obviously I'll do that.
We'll get some elected officials on there, get some people to come out and talk to us, and I know Sheriff Lou's always down for the cause. We'd probably get Sheriff Lou to come out. You know what I mean? Get a few people to come talk about the election, both at the local, the state, and the national level. There is the city council election is next year, folks. So we're beginning that long run to the city council election next year.
Yeah. So I'm for that, and we'll probably do some sort of election stuff, preview here. Leanne's asking you studio questions in the chat. Come on, Leanne. Pedestrian bridge. So a pedestrian bridge, I'm sure many people in the city are aware of. It runs from Caterbury Street to Crystal Street. I guess around over the tracks, right? Over the railroad tracks. Oh, nay, says the city. This was your thing. You go ahead.
So, a couple of things. One, friend of Made in J Media, friend of This Week in Worcester, Maria Montano, has talked about this bridge for many years. She's a resident. Her house is like right nearby this street bridge. It's first of all, before they closed it permanently, or like last year or whatever, they have been closing it regularly because the thing is, it's been a death trap for a long time. So it's super dangerous. It was not, it wasn't designed for modern life. Okay, so they closed it, and then basically Maria predicted this, and so I want to give Maria her flowers that they were going to just say it's too expensive and they weren't going to fix it, which of course goes directly against this idea of a walking city and making the city more accessible for people to walk. So they came up with this number, $5 million. It's an unnamed quote from a consultant. I don't know if this person has a construction background or they were from a thing or whatever, and they just said it's too expensive. Okay, so we're also at the same time trying to implement Vision Zero and safety, and that area, if you know anything about the Caterbury Street, Crystal, that area is very, very dangerous, and that little bridge did at one point provide an alternative route for folks that didn't want to drive. And it really is an opportunity to not just talk about Crystal to Canterbury, but also Cambridge Street, which is right there, which is one of the most dangerous streets in the state. That's not a joke. It's one of the most accident. If you don't believe me, you can go back to current interim Chief of Police Paul Saucier, who gave a report about traffic in relation to the Mill Street thing back, about 2 or 3 months ago, and he mentioned how Cambridge Street's one of the more dangerous streets in the state because there's constant accidents on Cambridge Street. And one of the things that happens often is to try to cross the street there are crosswalks is impossible. And if you happen to be handicapped and you were in a wheelchair or you needed some assistance across the street, you are literally taking your life in your hands. And we've seen over the course of this year, a lot of folks have been injured or killed because of bad driving. So you think it would make sense that we would invest in a walking bridge that takes people off of the street, above the street, over the street, and then back down in a much safer way. Now, we do understand it needs to be rebuilt and redesigned because it's a death trap. 100%. And that means it needs an elevator and it needs ramps for to be ADA compliant. It needs all kinds of stuff, right? And they're going to have to spend money to tear it down anyways, right? So remember, what they're suggesting is they're going to just tear it down, or they're going to leave it there for who knows how long until they do tear it down. And going to spend money. Why not figure out a way? And here's the thing that comes back to Tom and I talking about city development and economics. Why can't there be multiple bids in a process like this? Why can't we have an open bid process? Imagine that, where we had a bunch of companies come in and maybe do some cool neighborhood design, maybe offer it to a private company. Maybe somebody would want to design something and incorporate some kind of business in there, or some kind of a unique street design or an attraction. Imagine an attraction in the city of Worcester that's not downtown and is not part of the gentrification process. Imagine that. By the way, one of the most populous neighborhoods in the city and in the state. Again, It is a heavily populated area with triple deckers and massive apartment buildings. It's not far from the twin towers of the housing authority, getting towards Maine and Cambridge. It is a massively populated area, huge amount of traffic. There should be some reasonable approach to finding a way to redo that bridge. And so I hope the city manager comes up with something better than we just can't do it. It's going to cost too much money. When you just handed, again, millions of dollars out to corporations and TIFs for other things. And I'm not saying TIFs are always bad, but I am saying that maybe you should find more money for projects like this.
I actually don't have anything to add. I'll just sign on to your resolution, and we'll move on. No, I mean it's
I'm one.
We want. I'll just add. We want a walkable city, just not for those people.
Oh.
Because I mean,
Man, there's so much to dig in right there.
you hit it right on the head. Like that is perfectly aligned with walkability. Like, what are you gonna walk all the way down? I mean, you're basically right. You cross that bridge. You're on. That's the one you're basically on Illinois Street, like behind Illinois Street.
Illinois, yeah.
So, what are you walking down Illinois Street to get the cake?
So, and the other thing is, you also have seen like a lot more scooters and like the motorized bikes and stuff. You do see a lot of those now. Those are like super common. You go to like Best Buy. I was with Leanne. We went to Best Buy like a month ago or something, and she was looking at like one of those scooters. The laundromat that I go to, there's a girl that I'm friends with. Her name is Nikki. She drives one of those scooters all around the city. So you see them everywhere now, right? So wouldn't you think about an integrated way to maybe get those scooters over that intersection? That might be something smart to do. I don't know. Like, if we're thinking about a visionary direction for the city that also incorporates this other plan over here that says that it's about those things, wouldn't you think that there's a way to do that and find someone who wants to do it? Do we never lean on the local big companies that are maxing out all their money profits from the city of Worcester and say, hey, maybe they should take this on? Like, is there no one who would want to do this? Like, no one that does. I guarantee there's millionaires and billionaires in the city that could just pay for this themselves. Like, let's do something other than, oh, it's too much, we can't do it, because it's not part of our main agenda.
Yeah, or at least don't provide an estimate from an unnamed company and be all sketchy about it.
Tell me who it is. Who's the name? Give me a name.
They don't want to, though, because it was an estimate.
How much did they pay the consultant?
Yeah. I mean, the only reason why to not name the company is because the company doesn't want to be named, because the estimate's crap.
Probably. It's and listen, one of the things I've had to do at the church, which my church is on Caterbury Street, interest of full disclosure, and so this would be great for safety for the church and traffic, and all those things could be better for that area. I've had to get quotes for the parking lot, right, inside the church, and to get quotes, you have to go through like this. There's like a huge process to go through, and often these quotes are like 30, 40 pages long, and they got environmental reports and they got all this stuff. And so it takes months sometimes to get these quotes. Where did they get this thing? And why do we not have this like track record of what it is and what it says? Because like what you said is true, Tom. It's probably like written on a piece of scratch pad, and they didn't do the due diligence. Show me what the work is so I can actually compare it. I would be interested in finding a way to find the money to make this happen. I think it would be a great neighborhood advancement project for that area. I think it would be great. I know Maria has done a bunch of walking lives in that area, showing how dangerous it is. So why not figure out a way to do that? The city manager's street cleanup team has been in that parking lot like 3 or 4 times. So why not, like, if we're already having to clean that area up, how much money are we spending to send them down there? Let's go, figure out how to fix that little area. It won't take that much.
And lastly, really just to mention, also on the homepage this week in Worcester, City announced on Thursday or Friday that the changeover of the speed limit signs, 86 of them will take a few weeks and begin a week from Monday on the 21st. So
Okay.
that change is underway.
And hope people do drive slower and just be nice. Just be nice to people. It's just I know that I said a couple weeks ago about pickup truck drivers being the worst, but man, pickup truck drivers, you are the worst, man. Why are you so close with your LED lights beaming through my brain when I'm going 80? I'm going 80 and you have to go 107. Like, what is going on? Oh my goodness. But I will say this, I did see in Rhode Island on the highway the other day that they started doing that thing where they parked the trucks and nobody's actually in there, but the lights are on, like just on like
Mm-hmm.
static, and it does slow people down. And
It
so
does.
hey, if you guys aren't going to listen to the speed limits, I guess we're going to have to start popping police cars every 15 feet, and then you know what the next step is? Cameras on all the things, taking pictures of your license plate, and so you're going to end up having all kinds of government intervention because you can't drive like a normal human. Stop tailgating. Sorry. Okay, I'm done. Wait, that means it's the best time of the show.
Yeah, so just a little foreshadowing. There's this item on Tuesday. I heard a rumor that there might be another interesting item that isn't crazy, that isn't from an insane person the following week. So we'll talk about that next week. And now for the grand finale.
So for those of you who are just getting into the This Week in Worcester podcast experience, where Tom and I generally yell at each other and then sometimes yell at other people. Although this week we're pretty much on the same page. I feel like this week is a thing. I like to ask Tom a question about his favorite things. And we did a lot of food stuff. We've done movies. We've done all kinds of different things. And last week we did dinosaurs. What was Tom's favorite dinosaur? He picked a pterodactyl, which isn't actually a dinosaur, which that's okay. And so this week I decided to go in an entertainment direction because we did have the red carpet premiere of the Dirty Gerund Poetry Show documentary. Now I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you to tell me your favorite poet because I'll probably have to give you a heads up for that. But I am thinking about television.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Huh? It's Edgar.
Edgar Allan Poe.
It's Edgar. No, we're gonna do that one in a different time. But so what I want to do though is I would like to talk to you about cartoon shows, and the reason being is that this week they cast Jon Stewart, the Green Lantern, and they started talking about another version of a movie version of the Justice League. I am a huge fan of the Justice League cartoons and a massive fan of the comic books. And Jon Stewart was always and will always be the best Green Lantern. Why? Because Hal Jordan is a snake who cheated on his girlfriend and killed the entire universe multiple times, and then Guy Gardner's a drunk. Jon Stewart was a regular dude who got the ring and then tried to sacrifice himself multiple times to save everybody. Love Jon Stewart, love the character, love how he's written. Okay. So my question to you, Tom, is based on cartoons. Obviously, you can kind of get an idea of what my favorite cartoon is. What is your favorite cartoon of all time?
I mean, it'd be something made for adults, but Family Guy, South Park-ish. I was not. I mean, when I was little, He-Man was my guy. But I mean, that's little. And then I don't know, comic books. I was never going into comic book stuff. And at this point in my life, I'm just like all those movies, and I got real life stuff that for ages till 20 times past the time I die that I want to do, or learn about or understand or whatever. That's my nerdy side. I got there's just other things in the world I'm more concerned about than all of those superhero movies and all that stuff. Just not my thing.
So I see Leanne's checking in with some people. Checking in the chats and tell us your favorite comic books, whether it's on Twitter or YouTube or Facebook. Check in and tell us what your favorite cartoon is. So it's a tie, and this is going to reveal my age. I mean, because it's going to reveal my age. But it's been a tie for a long time, and it's definitely the original Transformers, the 1980s to the early 1990s Transformers series, before the Jungle Bots. So like the original that stuff. I love those Transformers, and tied with Batman the Animated Series, which led to all these modern Justice League, all those things. But Batman the Animated Series, one of the best shows of all time. I actually think it's not for kids. I think that they snuck a lot of really adult themes into those things, like they do with most animated shows nowadays. Obviously, The Simpsons and Family Guy and South Park, and then all the other stuff. And I do consider anime to be a separate category. It's really hard to compare them to, more narrative American style cartoons. But those are my two favorites.
Yeah, just as we're talking about it, he's also being again very young. I feel like I remember being into G.I. Joe, but I mean, going like kid stuff. You watched the thing that was on. Like you didn't care. You were a kid.
Yeah,
it was flashy and it made noises. But
Saturday morning.
Yeah,
I mean, this is actually.
I'll go Family Guy if we want to
Family Guy.
Advance, but I'll go Family Guy.
Yeah, I think most people like Family Guy, or some version, at least some episodes of Family Guy. I guess if I was going to pick up the adult, more ones, I probably would be South Park. I think that at least the first the first few seasons were some of the most. They were amazing writing, and it was just hilarious. I don't know if you've ever seen the episode of when Cartman, the Tears of Infinite Sadness. That episode is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
When he turns into Hitler about the gingers is my favorite episode of South Park. Absolutely.
Eventually they started to go a little too much, and so
what are they in? They must be in season 275 by now. I mean, they've done everything twice,
Yeah, they've done everything, everybody twice. They've made fun of everybody, at this point. They're just same thing with The Simpsons. The Simpsons is still going on, and apparently The Simpsons played a joke on everybody earlier this year. They did a series finale, and then turns out it wasn't.
Oh, nice! I like it. I didn't hear that, but I like it. I like it.
To do.
That's right. I can't think of dude's name, but that's right in that dude's style.
Yeah, that's great.
That's on brand.
They're still predicting the future. They've been doing that for a long time. So I won't say this is part of the reason I brought this up is that later on this month, maybe early next month, Leanne and I and a couple other local filmmakers are going to be working on a movie called Soapbox Hero, which is going to be part live action and part animation. So there is a connection to the stuff we started talking about at the beginning. Support local film, get involved. There's all kinds of different ways to get involved. If you're bored with spending whatever you spend on Google Play or Apple Play Store, and whatever you're buying on Amazon, if you wanted to get into something cool, there's some films and opportunities, and there's some cool stuff that Tom and I are doing with print media that you could get involved in. And so reach out. This Week in Worcester podcast is always looking for sponsors, and we're always down to talk to anybody. So we are open for business.
And that, kids, at 1 hour 13, not so bad. I think better than last week.
Yeah, last week was like 30.
Yeah, I don't remember what happened. And we did one topic for 45 minutes.
You yelled at me. You were mean to me last week.
I don't think I was. I don't think I've yelled at you since back when we were pre-recording.
That's true. We should put a poll up and have people vote on who they think is cooler, though, and then we can argue about that. Because it's definitely...
You're infinitely cooler than me with your 89 haircut.
Well, this thing right here.
All right. That is all for this week. We will absolutely try to screw it up less next week. Until then, for my co-conspirator in the words, John Edward Keogh,
that's
Tom Marino says we are out.